welcome everybody to another exciting episode of the Team Lead Talks podcast. I'm your host out of Alexandria, Virginia, Andrew Becker. On today's episode, we have my friend Jimmy Nelson, who is the CEO of Elite Edge Network. Welcome to the show, Jimmy. Glad to have you on, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. I know I had you on our the Elite Real Estate podcast a little while back, and
Yeah.
super happy to have you join. And then glad to be here, man. I love it.
Yeah, dude. Well, appreciate you having me on yours. That was a fantastic experience. So if you haven't listened to Jimmy's podcast, check that out as well. But we'll keep rolling here, man. For those who don't know who you are yet, can you give us a high level overview of, where you came from, what you're doing, and then we can get into the weeds here.
Yeah, man, for sure. So Jimmy Nelson, I'm in the Metro Detroit area. I've been in real estate for over a decade now. I got my start in on the mortgage side, and then transitioned into the real estate side. So I was super happy to be able to do that part because I really like the relationships you get to build with people, right? Whether they're buyers or sellers or all those kind of things. So I really like to build those relationships. Mortgage is always on the phone. So
Right.
I really like to get that face-to-face time. And I've coached high school basketball for over 20 years too. So, that background of coaching and then kind of just implements really well into real estate. But then I started thinking as I was in real estate is, what's an issue facing agents? And the issue facing agents is we go get a license, we join a brokerage, and they give us a phone and tell us to call people and set appointments.
Yep.
That's it. There's really no other direction other than that for most people. So yeah, putting my coaching hat on, that's where the Elite Edge Network came from, was this idea that I can help agents become better agents, right? And then it makes all of our jobs a lot easier. Every agent's better.
Right. Yeah, man, I love that. I remember we connected even before I was on your podcast. We have very like-minded processing of what you just said, right? Because you study for this exam. What you have learned on the exam, you don't use in the real world. You just use it for a period of time to get your exam. You join a brokerage and then they're like, who do you know? Tell everyone. And you're like, well, what else is there? And that's exactly how you and I really bonded, I think, when we first connected and started to learn what each other does. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the Elite Edge Network and exactly what you mean by, well, you got a license, then you go to a brokerage. Like, where do you step in? How can you actually, let's talk about the tangibles here.
Yeah. No, it's a great question. And I agree with you. Like I said, we agreed on a lot of things before we even actually did an episode. So one of the biggest things that I've always been a big proponent of emotional intelligence, right? Figuring out who you want to be, right? What does that person that you want to be do, right? And to get to have what that person has at the end. And so I've always been a big proponent of that. And a lot of agents, most agents, when I talk to them for the first time, they just got their license, or even veterans. If I ask them, like, how much money do you want to make this year? They all say $100,000.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes out.
Okay.
And then I just really break it down to, like, why 100,000? Why not 90? Why not 150? Why are we stopping at 100?
Right.
But I really boil it down to finding out what they want, right? I had a client that I was coaching one time. She was down in Florida, and her team was telling her, like, she wasn't making $100,000, and her team almost was going to get rid of her because she wasn't producing like they thought she should.
Yeah.
And then come to find out, her goal was just, she was a grandma, she was retired. She just wanted to pay for her kids to go to Disney World.
Wow.
That was it. Yeah, she just wanted to pay for her.
She just needed to close one or two. Well, actually, Disney World. So 100 deals that year, right?
Right, 100 deals that year. But once we broke it down and figured out what she really wanted and took that tension off of her, she ended up making over $100,000 because she released some of that pressure of, I have to do this, I have to do this. So I really am a proponent of breaking down what that individual wants, what their goals are and what their dreams are, because once you focus on that piece, now I can really help you get to that point. If I set the goal for you and I tell you what you should be doing, it's harder to get people to do that.
No, I think that's a fantastic starting point and how to approach it, because you and I have different goals where we want to do big, great things, but we don't want to assume that one lady wanted to make $1 million. Like,
right.
Not everyone has the same goals and ambitions. Maybe she just wanted to close one deal a month and she'd be perfectly, content and very happy with her life because she's retired and she doesn't need to work. So I love how you approach it with like, well, what does Andrew want? Or what does Jimmy want? Like, because I'm not going to tell you what you want.
Right. And if I tell you, it's harder to push you to that goal, right? Like it's adult learning, right? If I've done a lot of investigating on adult learning too. We don't learn like kids do. We can't, and kids don't learn great where they're stuck in a chair just talking at them all day either. Like
Right.
nobody learns that way, but adults specifically don't, and it's really hard to get adults to tell them what to do
Yeah.
because they become so accustomed to just doing their own thing. So it's that approach has to change a little bit. And then, now I've mixed, obviously, over the last 2 years, AI into everything, right? Like, how can AI help me figure out who I am? And it can, right? It can ask it questions. I have got a series of prompts that I use with them to figure out what they're looking for. And AI can help walk you through that stuff, right? Then there's, like you've created all these systems and things off of AI, and they all work, but we're at this fork in the road of the emotional intelligence and the artificial intelligence. And I've really tried to, one of the programs that I run is called Human Plus. And the Human Plus system is exactly that. We put those two things together, the emotional intelligence and the artificial intelligence, to help people get faster to what
Yeah.
they're doing.
I love how you use that terminology, Jimmy, emotional intelligence. I talk about business intelligence a lot, which is just a fancy way of saying like, systems and processes. But
Yeah.
another thing that you and I align quite well on, honestly, which is really cool. So, all right, Jimmy, going back to how you help people in the Elite Edge network, you talk to me and say, Jimmy, wanted to make $1 million, but what does Andrew want to do? And you run them through this emotional, I can't talk, emotional intelligence prompts through the use of artificial intelligence or an AI to help get you to that end result of, okay, this is exactly who Andrew is and what Andrew wants to do. And then you kind of put together an entire picture of what that needs to look like to help you help them. And then
Exactly.
let me know if I missed anything or if that kind of covers everything, like what happens next.
Yeah, that covers it, right? We try to boil it down to who they are, right? Figure out what they want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And then we build off a 90-day business plan off of that, right? So then we can boil it down to like how much money do they want to make, which creates how many contacts they have to have per day. Because that's the other thing. We set these lofty goals, so whether that's a 90-day goal or a 1 year goal or whatever, but that's a big chunk to bite right away, right? Like I always say, you can't eat an elephant in one bite. You have to, break it up into pieces. So same thing, same concept. So how do we break their goals are? Once we figure out what their goals are, we really hone in on that. And then once we do that, then we can set a 90-day plan for them to tell them how many contacts they need per day, how many, appointments they need per month, how many, because now those numbers are like, oh, I can do those numbers. If I look at this giant number and say, you need 2,000 contacts in the next
Yeah.
90 days, but if I tell you you need 5 per day, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. I think we talked about this when I was on your podcast, but this entire business, just like any sales business, but we'll keep it real estate related since this is a real estate related podcast here. But honestly, man, it comes down to it's a math problem, right? So if
Always.
you know how many deals you want to do, using historical data is the best. So if I have 5 years of Andrew's historical data, it makes it even easier. But as you start in this business, it doesn't have to be this grandiose number that you have to begin with or you fail, right? But over time, you know that if you want to close one deal and you back out how many appointments you have to hold, how many you have to set, how many conversations, how many this, how many that, it's like you need to make 55 and a half calls to close one deal. So if you want to close 10 deals, you just multiply it by 10 and you have to make 550 historically, right?
Yeah.
And then it
Yep.
makes your life and your business and your operation that much more sustainable and less chaotic, honestly, to me, when we started tracking those level of numbers, because you're just following this path of historical data. How important is it to look at real numbers and actually know what's working?
It's very, like, that's the biggest thing, and that's what one of the things, not a lot of people teach that, right? They say it, but it's how do I actually do that, right? So there's like a math equation that you could, like you were saying there, like that'll boil it down to how many phone calls do I need to make per day to get to this number. And then to me, being a basketball guy, right, it's the scoreboard to me. I can look at the scoreboard and say, all right, I'm ahead, I'm behind. Where am I at today? It's Tuesday. or it's Wednesday, or it's Thursday, whatever day it's at, or it's the 15th, or it's the 20th. Where am I at this month? What do my numbers look like? Do I need to work Saturday? Do I need to work Sunday? Like, do I need to add? Do I need to catch up? What does that look like? And so once you start tracking that way with those numbers, makes your life so much easier. And I'm a big guy on like time blocking.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you listen to my voicemail says, if you're calling me between the hours of 9 a.m. and noon, I'll return your call sometime after noon. I'm looking for homes for my buyers and buyers for my homes, right? So that's my voicemail. So at 9 to 12, I'll call you after 12.
Jimmy, is that why I never hear from you when I text you at 3 a.m.? You're
Yes,
just time blocked. You're that good. You're that dialed in.
and I have learned to use the do not disturb on my phone
Yeah,
after like 10 p.m. You know what I
right.
mean? Like because it's my, so that because we have that's another issue we have as agents too, is we don't protect our time well enough. We become fast food order takers, and we're just running. You need fries with that, and just run out there and go meet people at houses.
Yeah, you just gave me PTSD, man, of like, I'm not in sales anymore, obviously, and you know that. But like when I'm just sitting trying to get some work done, and then you get a random text, oh, I want to go see this house. Can we go in half an hour? And you're like, boom, and then your day is completely shot and you're working in the business, you're not working on it anymore. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. But
I'm
time
glad I could
blocking
bring
is
that.
essential here.
Yes, I'm glad I could bring that memory back up for you.
Yeah, yeah. I started to cold sweat over here. But dude, going back to the data part, everyone knows that data can exist, but not a whole lot of people are actually doing it at a high enough level to know those numbers. But one thing, and I highly recommend that if you're not tracking any data now, you start yesterday and start getting there. But one thing that you said that was incredibly important for the listeners right now to understand is number one, make it consistent and collect it and display it so you can see it to know what's working, what's not, but how you use that data to plan and project and predict what your next week or month or quarter or year or 3 years out is the game. So you need to collect it and not only look at it for those real-time decisions and get it in as real time as you like possibly can. It's incredibly important. But then you know what you need to do to accomplish what you want to do. But how crazy is it if you're running this business and you don't have that level of organization? And how important is it, Jimmy, for you to say, okay, well, historically, last 2 years, I need to do this, this, and this. What do I want to do this summer? And you're using that data to make your plan for that summer.
Yeah, and I just had a client that I was coaching, and I finally now he's been in the business for probably about 4 or 5 years now. Does a really good business. He didn't use a CRM at all. He was keeping everything on yellow sheets of paper.
Yeah,
Like
like a legal
he,
pad.
yeah, he had a legal pad or he had notebooks.
Yeah.
And he's a big dialer. So he would call expireds, he would call FISBOs, and he kept everything in a notebook. And
Wow.
then he showed me this stack of notebooks. And I said, we have to get you into a CRM.
That was the
Like
CRM. It was paper
it
CRM.
was.
Yeah.
But to your point, what you just brought up, I said, how do you know what worked last summer, right? Like, could you pull up your notebook and tell me how many closings you had last June,
Yeah.
or July, or September? Like, what did that month look like? What's your historically slow month, right? How can we fix that? What dial can we press to fix your historically low month?
Yeah.
Or how can we find your historically high month and just repeat what you just did for that month, right? So to your point, it's very important. And to new agents, it's really just figuring out again what they want, right?
Hmm.
Figuring out how much money they want to make, because that's why we have such a big dropout in this business too, right? So it's 85% in year one, and it jumps to like 92% by year three.
Yeah.
And so but that's why we set these really lofty goals, and if we don't hit 'em, we feel like a failure.
Yeah.
And you may not have been a failure. You may have done okay, but somebody told you were a failure. So now and again, this business can be hard. It's not easy, and it's not for everybody. But at the same point, it's very important that people track their numbers, know their numbers, because then I can look at you and say, all right, next year, right, you should up this by 10%, right? Or I can, if it's their first year in the business, I can say you should probably shoot a little bit lower. We obviously want to go above this, but I think you can try to do a little bit more. So, but that's why I like doing the 90-day runs too. Like if I do 90-day stretches, We can tweak along the way, but for the most part, we know this is a trailing industry, right? So what I do today doesn't work tomorrow.
Right.
It works 30 days from now, right? So, I tell agents, even if you had a client walk in today, pre-approved, wanted to go look at a house, you're still 30 days out.
Minimum, probably. Probably even
Minimum,
more than that. Yeah.
right? Probably more than that. But I mean, even if they were just like, or if you wanted to put a sign out in the yard today, you're at least 45 days out from selling that thing.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. The key takeaway here for this data KPI conversation that we're having right now, Jimmy, is what gets measured gets improved. It's
Mm,
incredibly important to measure something and benchmark it so you know if you're doing more calls or less calls, more appointments, less, closing less deals or more. One thing I'll argue for that guy you mentioned that was doing a fantastic business running basically from like his kitchen counter and paper is, and I don't know what he closed. Did like, let's pretend he closed 50 deals. I would argue that if he, at the very minimum, put it into a CRM, albeit an incredibly organized and self populating data KPI CRM is probably even better for him. Could he not triple his business, at least double his business if he really got calibrated, laser focused in on the operation side of it? What do you think about like I'll call it Stone Age kind of tracking to automation, modern day kind of tracking. But if someone's killing it like that, what are the chances of them having an even bigger business if they want, obviously?
yeah, at least double, right? At least double, because you should be getting referrals. You should be asking for the referral, because that's one thing we always had a tendency to forget about, right?
Yeah.
We forget to, at what point in the process do you ask for the referral, right? All those kind of things. But if you're not, again, if they're not in a CRM, if you're not staying in front of them, right? If you're not email campaigns and newsletters and whatever we're supposed to be doing, and we have, again, we have plans for all that, and AI obviously can help you with all that stuff too. But if you're not, like, that person should be thinking of you all the time. You just help them buy or sell a house that they're going to be in for 3 to 5 years, right? So but I want them talking about me at the barbecue, right? Like, I want them to mention me at work. When someone's at work and says, I'm thinking about selling my house, call Jimmy.
Yeah.
That's what I want them to do. But if I don't stay in front of them, we know that 3 to 5 years, they're going to, during that time span, they're going to find. NAR just put out the statistics. 80% of the people that use the real estate agent, 80% said they would use the same realtor a second time. Only 20% do. So that tells you right now that we don't do a good job staying in front of our people.
Jimmy, you just gave me my second bout of PTSD because I remember having a conversation with one of my coaches way back in the day. And he said, what are you doing for all the people that you've closed from today all the way back to when you started? And this is early on, so we'll call it an ego, whatever. I don't know what it is. He said, well, if they want to buy or sell, they know, like we worked with them before, they'll reach out. And he was like, okay. And then guess what, Jimmy? They did not reach out. And then we saw them closing with colleagues of ours in the DMV area. We were like, oh my God, what did we do? And we didn't focus enough on that part that you just said of like automation, top of mind, reminding people. It's super simple and obvious, but like we were kind of at the point in our career where or our operation where we're like, transactional, like close. We're closing a lot. But if we had just done, I don't know, 20% of what you just said and how important it is, we might have been able to double or triple from you, Jimmy, referring us, or you selling the property that we helped you buy 2 or 3 years ago. So that's an incredibly important lessons learned for us. So if you are thinking, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh, they know who I am, they know I'm an agent, think again, because I can I can go back to many a times when I was like, dude, we're in real estate. You bought a house with someone. I didn't know you even still, were interested in working with me. You're in this other price point. I'm here. And I'm like, oh man, such a bonehead move.
Yeah, yeah, and it's happened to me, right? People are like, "Oh, I didn't know you were still doing real estate." I'm like, "What do you mean? I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's always real estate first, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
always real estate first." So, but it happens, and again, it's my fault,
Yeah.
right? I
Oh
didn't
yeah.
do a good enough
100%
job
my
staying
on
in front of
me.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It's my fault.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go back to the Elite Edge Network program that you have. So you do this emotional intelligence, you do 90 days tracking, planning, and then how does this like all come full circle here, Jimmy?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking for those incremental gains, right? Like the slight edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
1% better every day. If you get 1% better every day over a year, you're 365% better. And so I think the biggest thing is that we look at these 90-day tracker, you have a tracker built in. We can watch, we can help you figure out what you need to be doing. But at the end of it, it's our goal is to then how do we increase that,
Mm-hmm.
right, for the next 90 days? What dials can we turn? Because now that they are actually tracking, and whether they're prospecting and door knocking or however they're prospecting, right? Whether it's social media, right? There's a whole way to prospect on social media. People think that's an easier way. It's really not. It's actually harder. You're getting in front of more people, but you're still got to filter through a bunch of it.
Right.
So, but no, then the goal is always to get them 1% better every day, right? A lot of mindset stuff because this is a difficult business that we do. And typically you get beat up all week by your team leader or your broker or whoever's telling you should be doing more
Yeah.
while they're in there, while they're taking somebody else out to lunch because you're paying them. Anyway, it's a whole nother story.
It feels like we have another episode deep down inside of you that we'll come back and do later.
You're right. But no, it's the biggest thing is like, how can we just make people better? Right. And if we can make people better and to get them to their goals, that's our biggest thing. How can we help you reach the goals and dreams that you want? And it's by getting 1% better every day and doing these 90-day stretches that we do. In the 90 days, we can see again that where that incremental gain starts to come. And then by boiling it down to those numbers, we can figure out, all right, which lead source is working better for you? Let's turn that one up, turn the other ones down,
Yeah.
and then really hone in on that skill that you're really good at and that people, know, like, and trust you for that piece of it.
I love that. Such a systematic, calibrated approach to a business operation, which is fantastic.
Exactly.
That's right up my
Yep.
alley, Jimmy. I know we can probably talk for 10 hours more, given how you and I can go back and forth about a lot of stuff. But on the Team Lead Talks podcast, we keep these to about 20-ish minutes. So we're coming up on time. But love to have you back to continue this conversation, of course, and to continue doing all the other cool stuff that we had talked about doing kind of off the platform. But Jimmy, if someone's listening today and is like, man, I'm stuck, I could use this help, where can they find you? Where can they reach out?
Yeah, the EliteEdgeNetwork.com is the place they can go. So they can go to the EliteEdgeNetwork.com. You can schedule a 20-minute call with me there. And I like to do that right off the gate just to figure out where you're at in your business. How can I help? If it even is a fit, right? The 20 minutes, we can see if we hit it off. So schedule a time there. But you can find the Elite Edge Network on YouTube. You can find me, Jimmy Nelson, Real Estate, wherever social media is, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. But yeah, the fastest way is leadedgenetwork.com. Schedule a time there.
Sweet. And we will include all of Jimmy's contact information, including that website, in the description of this episode. So if you're on YouTube right now, look below, click on it, reach out to Jimmy. Fantastic time, man. I love talking operations and systems with you. Thank you so much for being on the show, dude.
Man, I appreciate the time and I thank you guys very much. And yeah, let's run it back. Well, maybe I should come in studio there.
Yeah. You'd be the first. I need to get like lighting in. I'll have to spend thousands of dollars, but we can make it happen.
I have to work more on my lighting, apparently.
Yeah. But that's also the subject of another topic of conversation for a subsequent episode. But thanks again, man. I appreciate your time.
All right, man. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Later.